One of those seeds is education and skills. The foundation, says the Prime Minister, on which all our aspirations of peace, opportunity, and prosperity depend. I do wholeheartedly believe, as the Prime Minister said, our hope of reaching to that place of peace, opportunity, and prosperity will depend on the quality of education and its alignment with future job market, the restoration of societal values, and addressing long-standing issues of equity in our education system. Madam Speaker, we know in our minds exactly the future that we would have if all of our students have a good quality education, and that education is aligned to the future job market. We know in our minds exactly the future we would have if we restore societal values and minimize the inequity in the education system. But it is not enough to know in our minds only. We have to do the work to make it so. I commit the Ministry of Education and Youth to the steadfast day-in, day-out execution that is needed to solve these issues. Madam Speaker, having returned our students to full face-to-face classes on March 7, 2022, the first order of business has been recovery. We know that while technology helped the majority of our students in the virtual classrooms, we also know that many of our students were not engaged on any of the platforms, and that the learning loss is beginning to show itself fully as we return to face-to-face. We have therefore started the recovery process. In our schools, we have had just about a month of full face-to-face. We're pleased to note that the majority of our educators have welcomed the move. The results from a JTA survey showed that 86.5% of educator respondents found teaching online more demanding. The survey also found that 91% of the respondents rated the level of preparedness at their school as either fair, good, very good, or excellent. Yes, there was hesitation among some schools. Some called for more time to get ready. Weighing all the factors, we made that transition back into face-to-face classes fully, and from all indications, that was the right decision for the education sector. The gratitude of our children has been reflected in the many pictures we received. Parents are happy as well. Many friendships have been rekindled all across our schools as students see their friends again, something we sometimes take for granted. The pandemic showed all of us how life-giving is our physical interactions with each other. Across the government-sponsored portion of the early childhood sector, comprising the Brain Builder Centers for our children in the 0 to 3 age group, infant schools and infant departments, these institutions are also opened for face-to-face. So too are the hundreds of privately owned and operated community daycare centers and basic schools. The Early Childhood Commission, led by the effervescent Trish Williams-Singh, continues to work to ensure full recovery, full accounting and support for our children. 3,355 early childhood institutions comprising brain builder centers, infant schools and infant departments, community basic schools and daycare centers are back in the face-to-face mode. Our field officers have already visited approximately 1,422 of them to offer support, and the work continues. Madam Speaker, we had indicated during the midst of the pandemic that approximately 120,000 of our primary and high school students were not showing up online or using any of the other modalities provided for their education during the pandemic. Prior to returning our students to full face-to-face, we launched our Yard-to-Yard Find the Child initiative, which engaged 108 social workers and 580 of our HOPE students at a cost of $103 million for a period of 3 months. Added to this initiative were the efforts of 928 guidance counselors and our 177 deans of discipline for a total of 1,793 persons. Add to this the many principals, teachers, and administrators and ordinary Jamaicans who joined the effort and reached out to parents and community members to re-engage our students in the face-to-face setting. Using a weekly average of 32,554 unaccounted for students over the period February 14th to April 1 shows that we have been able to re-engage approximately 87,446 of the 120,000 students we had indicated were not accounted for during the pandemic. Madam Speaker, we commit to finding all our students. Our deans of discipline and our guidance officers will specifically redouble their efforts. We also call on all Jamaicans. You know these children in your communities that are not attending school. Call us at 211. Our internal officers and eventually our truancy officers will visit homes to understand the issues why the children are not in school. Together with our Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, and with the help of other sister ministries, we commit to doing all we can to help the situations in the homes and get our students in school and learning again. And let me just pause to acknowledge the work that the Honourable Minister Nestor Morgan did while he was at the ministry to get this number set up, the 211 number set up to report on child abuse. Madam Speaker, like the shepherd in Matthew 18, verse 12, we, the Ministry of Education and Youth, must go to look for even that one that wandered off. We are not willing that any of these little ones should perish. Madam Speaker, every child has a right to education. Parents are required to ensure that their children are in school, and failure to do so is tantamount to educational neglect. Ministry of Education and Youth has made provision for children from early childhood to secondary levels to access full-time education. Too many children are absent from school on a daily basis. Jamaica's absentee rate is above the world's average. In 2022 into 2023, we will work to reduce absenteeism by at least a half of the current rate. Madam Speaker, even as we continue to find and re-engage absentee students, for those who are in school, we continue to assess them so that we can ascertain their levels of learning and also help them to move to the next level in their education or the world of work. In that regards, Madam Speaker, we're happy to note that approximately 35,900 grade 6 students prepared for and sat their primary exit profile ability test on Thursday, March 24, demonstrating their resilience. In consideration of the impact of the pandemic on learning for our PEP students, we reduced the content areas to be tested, cancelled a component of the assessment for the grade 6 students, and also delayed the date of administration for the PEP ability test to give the students more time to prepare themselves. Additionally, our schools convened PEP camps for the students and teachers and prepared and distributed practice questions. Several psychosocial sessions were also held. Grade 6 students are now scheduled to sit the curriculum-based test in language arts and science on April 27 and in mathematics and social studies on April 28 of this year. Our students and teachers have been preparing and public interest in the matter is high. We know this because our websites have been getting significant traffic as teachers, parents, students, and other interested persons seek information. Over the past 12 months, there have been approximately 750,000 visits to our website. Our top 10 hits include our mathematics lesson plans and the National Standards curriculum. Madam Speaker, our grade 11 to 13 students were also enabled to be engaged in face-to-face learning environment almost from the start of the academic year. To ensure that they were not at a disadvantage, the ministry continued to provide examination subsidies for up to 5 CSEC and 3 CAPE subjects, and access to a skill subject offered by NCT VET and City and Guilds. We also offered dual subsidy for maths and English at CSEC and City and Guilds to ensure every opportunity for success and that is maximized. Madam Speaker, the Ministry continues to support all our schools with additional grants over and above what we would normally provide. With the resumption of full face-to-face, we made available an additional $435.6 million to help our schools purchase sanitization material and additional desks. Madam Speaker, we are grateful to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, which provided our schools with 400,000 masks and 5,000 COVID-19 test kits to augment the response plans at our schools. We're still encouraging mask wearing because we're not out of the COVID fog just yet. Additionally, through the efforts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, via its consul in New York, we recently received 980,000 packs of FDA-approved antiseptic wipes valued at 84.5 million Jamaican dollars. We thank all our stakeholders who have come on board to help during these COVID times to provide tablets, laptops, wipes, books, and other supplies for students. We truly appreciate your support. You are helping our schools prepare for any likely challenges in the months ahead. Madam Speaker, I turn now to an important concern that we all have, and that is learning loss because of reduced access and time away from the familiar environment of face-to-face classes. We provided our schools with a suite of diagnostic tests for grades 1 to 9 from as early as September of last year. Since then, other school-based formative assessments designed to monitor student learning have been administered as well. This is an ongoing activity which will be provided to all students as they return to face-to-face. Having done these assessments, schools are expected to develop their intervention plans using the National School Learning and Intervention Framework, NSLIP, which has been developed by the Ministry to guide curriculum management for schools. The National School Learning and Intervention Framework includes extra teaching time for students through summer school and extra lesson and homework programs, psychosocial engagements, parental engagement, strict monitoring of attendance, provision of digital learning resources, a robust accountability framework, and focused on customized learning based on assessment data. Our schools are being assisted by technical teams, including student support coaches, special education officers, curriculum officers, national numeracy and literacy coaches, and community relations officers to implement the plan, to track progress, and to address learning challenges. Through these approaches, school leaders will be better able to make crucial decisions about teaching and learning to get students back on their learning tracks. Madam Speaker, to date, 6,074 students are making the best use of our online extra lesson classes, and 11,926 students have registered and are now engaged in the face-to-face extra lesson classes at both primary and secondary schools. I use this opportunity to encourage our students and parents to take advantage of this extra lesson support at no extra cost or no cost to the parents, as it is through extended learning opportunities that we will begin to make up for the learning loss. Madam Speaker, just to recap, our learning remediation plan calls for customized learning guided by assessment data. This is school-based and is supported by our curriculum specialists. We're using special education services, learning platforms, and resources prepared by the Ministry, by our educational service providers such as One-on-One, the Learning Hub, and EduFocal. The Learning Passport, as well as the functional literacy and numeracy programs provided by UNICEF. This should ensure that the gaps identified in what students should know based on their grade level is the focus of the lessons towards getting the students back on their learning track. Our math and literacy coaches have targeted underperforming schools as per the diagnostic test and other national assessments dataset. Additionally, Madam Speaker, as part of the learning recovery, we will continue our efforts at capacity building training for teachers in teaching the national standards curriculum with a special focus on strengthening the curriculum implementation teams at the school level. This should ensure that all key stakeholders are aware of the national standards curriculum and that our teachers maintain fidelity to the standards, that the curriculum standards and objectives are clearly understood and are appropriately reflected in the unit plans, the lesson plans, and formative and summative assessments, and that post-training expectations are met through improved monitoring and accountability frameworks. Our regional education officers and curriculum officers are being retooled and have begun to employ the team approach to supervision, making use of pre-conferencing, using the NEI data, assessment data, operations data, blanketing and post-conferencing exercises to ensure school and learning targets are met. The officers are set to have an upcoming intense 3-day planning exercise in the 4th week in April, with a focus on our 240 schools that are ranked as unsatisfactory by the NEI. The officers are more data-driven now and are working with a greater sense of intentionality and a renewed thrust for improved accountability. We will see an increased presence of our technocrats in our schools to offer the required hand-holding to ensure fidelity to our national standards curriculum and to the learning needs of our students. We will also continue providing lesson plans to reduce the administrative demands on our teachers. This will give teachers more time to focus on customized learning and assessments. We have over 500 lesson plans in our lesson plan repository. The goal is to have lessons for all subjects and all grades, and already we're seeing many of our teachers access these lesson plans. Madam Speaker, psychosocial sessions are also going through weekly scheduled guidance and health and family life classroom sessions, along with individual, group, and family counseling. We encourage our schools to make referrals to our service providers as the need arises, through the guidance clinics, Rise Life Management, and Peace and Justice Centers. Madam Speaker, we recently intensified the psychosocial and socio-emotional efforts by launching the Psychosocial and Socio-Emotional Learning Weeks under the theme Embracing a Winning Well-Being. This has been running from April 6 to 13, and again April 25 to 29, and is especially focused on treating with the recent violence in our schools, because we know the solution to violence in schools is not just about using metal detectors and doing searches. Special focus is also being given to individual, group family and grief counseling, spiritual and motivational empowerment, coping with stress and trauma sessions, mental health training, conflict management, decision-making sessions, among others, whilst making use of art therapy, music, drawing, poetry, drama, talk therapy, among others. It is the whole person, the whole student with which we have to treat. All told, Madam Speaker, the government's recent investment in mitigating the learning loss has been in excess of $1.5 billion. This figure does not include our continued support of online media platforms and educational resources, which is $1.2 billion at the primary level and $1 billion at the secondary level. Madam Speaker, we know that it is not enough for schools simply to reopen their doors at what appears to be the end of COVID-19. Students will need tailored and sustained support to help them readjust and catch up after the pandemic. In this regard, Madam Speaker, we continue to benefit from the support of international partners such as Unesco and Unicef in our efforts to provide quality education through technology and capacity building of teachers. UNICEF is supporting literacy and numeracy development through increased student access to learning resources. UNESCO has provided training and the sharing of lessons learned from addressing the COVID pandemic in various jurisdictions. They've also facilitated several workshops to improve the use of technology in teaching. We want to thank as well the IDB and the World Bank for their technical and financial support in many areas, specifically in helping us with platforms and analysis of the vast amount of data generated in the education sector. IDB will also be working with us to digitize our learning resources as well. Madam Speaker, unfortunately, with the return of face-to-face classes has come an upsurge in violent behavior in our schools. To all our parents who have lost a child or children during the pandemic due to COVID illness or COVID depression, violence in school, the home, the community, or motor vehicle accident, we extend our heartfelt condolences. We offer our prayerful support to you, your families, and communities. We're working in meaningful ways to minimize and ultimately eliminate this scourge that robs the nation of valuable members of future generations. Madam Speaker, a few of the measures undertaken in this regard include the conduct of audits of the handheld metal detectors that were provided to all schools. Guided by the findings of the audit, a program of replacement of defective devices is being undertaken. A similar audit is being done for the 27 high schools that were provided with walk-through metal detectors. Another 9 are being installed in selected schools. Searches aided by the use of these technological devices. Schools resume searches of our students on entry and randomly throughout the day. Madam Speaker, we have given schools a safety and security policy document, and we expect that schools will abide by the procedures, especially as they relate to searches. The policy document describes what is a search and under what conditions they can have searches. Some schools will be getting CCTV surveillance systems to improve school safety and security. Also, we're working closely with our partners to improve safety and security within our schools. These include the Community Safety and Security Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, not only to support our schools to conduct searches, but also to improve the visibility of the police in targeted spaces after school and at transport centers. We're working with the Ministry of Justice to provide restorative practices training to teachers, student leaders, and parents as a tool to manage conflict. We're working as well with the Ministry of National Security to provide case management services to students, particularly those attending schools located within or serving the zones of special operation. We're working with the National Council on Drug Abuse in response to the increased use and confiscation of drugs since the full resumption of school. We highlight as well the 55 additional school resource officers from the Jamaica Constabulary Force who are being deployed to our schools under the Safe Schools program in the police area, which consists of Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. Madam Speaker, we've given schools a safety and security policy document, and we expect that schools will abide by the procedures, especially as they relate to searches. Principals, vice principals, school administrators, and staff are asked to be on high alert for loud talking beyond what is normal, rough play, gathering of students on the outside of classes, especially during breaks and lunchtime, and we ask that they disperse these gatherings. School leaders, middle managers, and teachers have been asked to encourage students to play their part by taking personal responsibility for their safety and security, walking in groups when journeying to school, avoid walking alone at other times, avoiding shortcuts when journeying to and from school, avoid loitering in shopping centers, bus parks, and other public spaces after school, avoid exposing their cell phones and other valuables while at school or on the way to and from school, avoid being a target, and students reporting what they knew. Madam Speaker, we expect those actions that we outlined will reduce the incidents. However, we are intent on engineering a change in the mindset of our children. That is where long-lasting change begins. In response to these challenges, our principals, our guidance counselors, health and family life teachers, and deans of discipline are collaborating to implement the psychosocial and socio-emotional learning activities We have developed a model that was shared with all schools, and we ask that the focus be given to our high schools, and in particular our fourth form students in this first round of these psychosocial and socio-emotional learning activities. Why our fourth forms? Since the resumption of full face-to-face classes this year, several of our high schools have come to national attention with fights and stabbings. And there has been the very unfortunate stabbing death of Kamal Hall of William Knibb Memorial High School. We mourn as well the death of 15-year-old Canute Williams from Papine High School, who was shot and killed on his way to school in a reported robbery attempt. We're focusing on our fourth formers because the data is suggesting that the COVID-19 impact is greatest on them. Our current fourth form students had their first year of high school, which was grade 7, in September 2018 to June 2019. So they would have missed approximately 1/3 of their second year, which was grade 8, or second form. They missed all of their third year, which was grade 9, or third form. They've already missed about half of their fourth year, which is fourth form. Madam Speaker, the typical grade 10 student is about 15 years old, just entering adolescence. Madam Speaker, almost 2 years of a structured school learning environment have gone, and almost 2 years of building friendships have gone. The typical grade 10 student or fourth former is entering the teenage years, 15 to 17. Psychologists say this is a time of change for how teenagers think, feel, and interact with others, and a time of change for how their bodies grow. This is also an important time to prepare for more independence and responsibility, especially for boys, and it is scary. It is a really, really rough time mentally for our grade 10 students in particular. Madam Speaker, having come to this understanding, we commenced an intervention and will continue this during the month of April. Schools have the flexibility to replicate and adapt this concept as the need arises. Limited academic classes will be held in those 2 weeks. We want to focus on providing psychosocial support to our fourth form students or grade 10 students, primarily to help them through this period. Even while we continue to use measures that include suspension for fights, metal detectors, additional resource officers, Madam Speaker, we recognize that our students need some heavy-duty psychosocial support to begin to see a greater level of socio-emotional intelligence, competencies, and skills that will enable our students to manage their emotions, thus get into that state where they can resolve conflicts without violence. So, Madam Speaker, this is a good time to highlight character education. This was a focus area in my sectoral presentation last year, in which I said character education would be institutionalized in all our schools. Madam Speaker, the ministry, in ensuring that the right values and attitudes are inculcated in our children and youth, has embarked on the development of a character education program. In June of last year, we established a broad-based task force, and I want to recognize the members for the many hours they devoted to helping us to understand what is character education, what does it look like, how do we implement it. The character education task force include professionals such as Dr. Michael Abrams, a gynecologist by profession and chair of the task force, former Governor General Sir Kenneth Hall, child psychiatrist Dr. Ganesh Shetty, Dr. Rosemary Johnson, psychologist and lecturer at UWI, Dr. Abigail Harrison, pediatrician with special interest in adolescents and adolescent psychology, consultant in the Department of Psychiatry, UWI, Dr. Safari Longmore, Dr. Herbert Gale, anthropologist, international education advisor from EduQuest International Incorporated, Dr. Avis Glaze, Mr. Julius Gunter, strong advocate for adverse childhood events awareness and an author of children's book, Ms. Rebecca Tortello, education specialist, UNICEF, educator, Dr. Renee Rattry, human rights advocate, Diocese of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, Mr. Sean Major Campbell, education psychologist, Renee James, representative of the National Student Council, Jamaica Teachers Association, representatives of the clergy, and the Guild President, University of the West Indies. Technocrats from various agencies or divisions of the ministry are also on this task force. A series of presentations covering topics such as adverse childhood experiences, anthropology of social violence, adolescence, child psychiatry, school-wide positive behavior and intervention support, character education and formation, were some of the presentations that we received. A character education diagnostic study served as a basis to inform the program development. The recommendations from the study were reviewed and a detailed chronology outlining the steps to be made towards effective implementation is being undertaken. Madam Speaker, in addition to what we're doing in schools, I draw your attention to the government's commitment to a holistic approach in addressing the issue of violence against children, which is reflected in a number of actions, including the National Plan of Action for an Integrated Response to Children and Violence, which provides a coordinated and structured approach to addressing the key issues and challenges pertaining to children as victims, perpetrators, and witnesses of acts of violence and abuse. Also, the National Commission on Violence Prevention operates on the principle that violence prevention is most effective when it begins at an early age. Parenting support and early childhood development are critical investments in violence prevention. We are determined, Madam Speaker, to reach our parents this year. Our entity, the National Parenting Support Commission, the Ministry of National Security, and our central ministry have come together to reach 97,000 parents. This joint effort has already produced 2 of 30 targeted fairs. And the National Parenting Support Commission, already through various activities, has been able to reach over 50,000 parents. We know, based on many different research results, that the most accurate predictor of academic achievement is not socioeconomic status, nor how prestigious the school is that a child attends. The research says that the best predictor of student success is the extent to which families encourage learning at home and involve themselves in their child's education. When parents are engaged in their children's school lives, students have the home support and knowledge they need to not only finish their assignments, but also develop a lifelong love of learning. Madam Speaker, to help direct the energies of our students in meaningful activities, we will emphasize the uniform groups in schools as our students are now back in the face-to-face modality. Following our audit to identify all the uniform youth groups in school and the number of students engaged, a strategic plan has been developed for the next 3 years, which includes an action plan to guide the expansion efforts of the youth groups. We've taken a special focus on uniform youth groups operating in primary and secondary schools in the 5 areas declared as zones of special operations: Augustown, Greenwich Town, Denham Town, Mount Salem, and Norwood. An audit was also conducted which revealed that there are 15 primary and 10 high schools located in the ZOZOs which require intervention measures due to the behavior of some of our students. The audit also revealed that 5 uniform youth groups have a strong presence in the schools identified. As partner in the Citizen Security Plan, which includes the interministerial 25 school strategy, focused attention will be paid to school governance, leadership and management, student development, school infrastructure, and community-level intervention. The ministry is also committed to include an additional 9 schools located within or serving the communities of Parade Gardens, Kingston and Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, the 2 additional zones of special operations to benefit from this strategy. Madam Speaker, in assessing the violence in schools, the root causes and the intervention plans to bring to bear on them, our efforts will be futile unless we understand the environment from which our children come. And I want to thank again the many professionals from the Character Education Task Force who really increased our understanding of the science behind adverse childhood experience, ACE, and the need for many of our parents, the adults and guardians in our home, to have a paradigm shift from blame, shame, and punishment of our young children to understanding, nurturing, and healing. Importantly, it's for the Ministry of Education and Youth to begin to have our educators in our classrooms and teaching colleges understand what is trauma-informed teaching, which starts with an awareness of how trauma can impact learning and behavior. The experts tell us that with this approach, our educators will think about what students' behavior may be telling them, and in so doing, they will find ways to better support students who may be experiencing trauma. The professionals say, Madam Speaker, trauma is intense sources of stress that many children experience, which can come from poverty, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, community violence, and corporal punishment that is still practiced in many homes in Jamaica. We know as well that these sources of stress can lead to drug addiction, violence, and other harmful behaviors that play themselves out in our schools. Yes, Madam Speaker, we understand that it is not just the metal detectors, random searches, and more resource officers, which we deeply appreciate, Dr. Chang. It has to be a fundamental shift for which our schools have to play an enormous role. Between April 2021 and March 2022, 12,642 cases of child abuse came to the Child Protection and Family Services Agencies, CPFSA. Add to this the many unreported instances of slapping, beating with an implement, pinching, and the psychologically aggressive methods of quarreling, shouting, denying food, swearing, cursing, and you see the hell from which many of our children come. When these children show up in our classrooms, they are on the edge. The slightest word can set them off. The Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions 2019 has the statistics on corporal punishment and psychologically aggressive methods of punishment that are being meted out to our children in the age group of 0 to 9 years old. It continues to be frightening. The efforts we're making this year in collaborating with the Ministry of National Security to reach 97,000 parents, to do risk assessments and get our most at-risk parents the appropriate parenting program and support, are in recognition that if we don't change how our mothers, our fathers, and our caregivers handle our young children, we will be constantly running after the problem instead of being ahead of it. Madam Speaker, we recognize that our teachers need psychosocial support as well. The Jamaica Teaching Council provided virtual support group sessions for teachers entitled Return to Happiness. Teachers were engaged in 6 weeks of activities, including mindfulness, journaling, skill development in coping and emotional awareness. Teachers registered voluntarily to join a group, and sessions were available after 4 p.m. on weekdays and during weekends. In recognizing the learning problems in our primary schools and that we need to do something different in order to better prepare our students for high school, the ministry is advanced in the implementation of the primary specialist teacher model in our primary school. The model is designed to help primary schools and primary school teachers transition from the generalist approach to specialist teachers deployed at the primary level of the education system. Teachers are therefore required to specialize in one of 8 defined specializations aligned to the national standards curriculum: mathematics and science, language arts and social studies, language arts and Spanish, music, visual arts and drama, religious education and civics, and STEM courses. To date, Madam Speaker, 378 schools, approximately 4,500 teachers, are advanced in the implementation of the model. A further 191 schools are scheduled to implement the model beginning September 2022, with the final 173 set to begin in September of 2023. The ministry's support to schools has included training for principals to lead the process, supported by the National College of Educational Leadership, the provision of access to software and the supporting training to develop timetables, the development and implementation of the redeployment platform, which is designed to identify the best specialization for each teacher. Teacher training institutions have transitioned their Bachelor of Education primary programs to begin the preparation of preschool teachers according to the established specification. The first group of specialist teachers is expected to graduate in 2024. The Ministry will continue to work with the UWI Mona Campus School of Education to develop a postgraduate certificate program for the in-service training of teachers. The cost for implementation of the primary specialist teacher model for this financial year is $378 million. This accounts for the cost of additional teachers for multi-grade schools, resources to support teaching and learning, the development of new courses for the Bachelor's in Education primary program, and the development of the in-service teacher training program. It is expected that over a 5-year period, $2 billion will be spent to upgrade the competencies of teachers in alignment with the model. Madam Speaker, we have to tackle education on all fronts. Our students' nutritional
Speaker's time, the Minister's time for speaking has expired.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the member's time be extended to allow her to complete the presentation within the approved timeline that we have agreed on. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Those against? Minister.
Madam Speaker, we have to tackle education on all fronts. Our students' nutritional status impacts access to learning, readiness for learning, and success at learning. And so for this year's budget, approximately $6.5 billion was approved under the school feeding program. For the financial year, 130,306 beneficiaries are to benefit under this program. The draft National School Nutrition Policy was signed off by the Ministry of Education and Youth and the Ministry of Health and Wellness and has been submitted for the next step of the approval process. The policy will facilitate the development of guidelines for increased access to safe and nutritionally adequate food in schools, facilitate a greater focus on physical activity in school environments, facilitate the development of healthy eating and lifestyle choices by children, and contribute to improvement in the nutritional education and knowledge of children and their families. Madam Speaker, the issue of student dress and grooming has always been a major concern for schools, and that at times have resulted in students being sent home for breach of the Student Code of Conduct. Principals are being reminded, and we have been doing this from time to time, that the school's department policy should be guided by the ministry's grooming policy guidelines. And where possible, special consideration should be afforded to students and their families as they attempt to rebound from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and as they try to comply with the department policy of the institution. A draft dress and grooming policy for public educational institutions has been circulated to key stakeholder groups for their feedback. It is expected that this policy will be available to schools at the start of the next school year. Madam Speaker, in speaking about education, we have to be aware that education is delivered by a central entity and its regions. And so we also have to look at the operational efficiency at the Ministry of Education. Customer service will significantly improve if we can implement operational efficiencies across the central ministry and its regions. A major part of this work has started with the implementation of MyHR Plus, an integrated HR and payroll system that serves the public sector. Key features include human resource management, payroll management, attendance, employee self-service, and so on. Earnest work has begun at the ministry, and the functionalities are being implemented and expanded. Efforts are apace for the mass digitization of personal records of teachers and staff in public schools, as well as staff within the Ministry of Education. As of March 2022, there are about 24,847 active teachers in the system, of which a total of 11,268 files have been digitized. Additionally, the system is currently being piloted to allow for leave calculation, beginning with central ministry staff. As the functionalities are expanded, improved customer service will be experienced. Madam Speaker, the recent Jamaica Education Transformation Commission's report that the Prime Minister commissioned has 55 prioritized recommendations across 7 broad areas. The first recommendation is for an implementation oversight committee to be formed. This has been done. The Prime Minister has announced the appointment of Dr. Adrian Stokes as the chairman. He's a former group strategist for the Bank of Nova Scotia, Jamaica, holds a PhD in finance from the University of Manchester, and a master's in economics from the University of the West Indies. He sits on various boards. He's a former Commonwealth Scholar, a graduate of the University of Manchester, and he has good distinctions, educational distinctions. Early childhood is a major focus of the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission report. This year, the government is providing approximately $708 million to continue to provide trained practitioners in our Brain Builder centers and in the private sector owned and run daycare centers. As of March, there were some 2,369 early childhood institutions operating in Jamaica. In the ECC census for academic year 2019-2020, the total enrollment in early childhood was 111,832 children. There are some 11,591 early childhood practitioners and caregivers working in the sector, making it, on average, 10 children per practitioner. Governor General Sir Patrick Allen proclaimed 2022 the year of early childhood development, a significant milestone for the sector. Through our series, Learning Leaders, Empowering Communities, the ECC conducted training sessions of school boards, principals, on different areas, including corporate governance. Approximately 8,000 parents actively participated in over 1,000 virtual sessions. Our community relations officers provide moral and psychosocial support for parents, and there were many, many WhatsApp groups over which these were done. Madam Speaker, the Standard 2 training program was developed by the ECC and through Heart Trust NSTA will be offered to early childhood practitioners in the 2022-2023 school year. The program was designed to support the early childhood institutions to have comprehensive programs designed to meet the language, physical, cognitive, creative, socio-emotional, spiritual, cultural, and school readiness needs of children. The early childhood practitioners will be exposed to techniques which allow for a better understanding of the Standard 2, ultimately improving the quality of the programs offered by the early childhood institutions. In September to October of last year, due to the continued effects of school closures, the ECC increased the focus of the practitioners in understanding the importance of play in early childhood development. The Reimagining Play is a series of training sessions focused on knowledge, skills, and competencies. They also have a 0 to 3 comprehensive course for our practitioners. And this was run last year and will continue in the years ahead. There are many programs offered at the early childhood stage to our practitioners to ensure that they continue to increase their knowledge of the young children and how best to interact with them and help them to develop as they come into the schools from day to day. In order to help our parents participate in their children's education, especially in the early childhood sector, we must give the parents tools. And so we will be launching a series called What Should My Child Know and Do? This will allow parents to track how their children are doing, but also give them the knowledge about what their children should know and do, and by what age they should know and do these things. This will allow more timely intervention and a closer working relationship with the practitioners and the parents. What should my child know and do? Education campaign will focus on 4 areas: reading development, language development, physical development, and emotional development. And more will be said about this in the days ahead. In all of this, Madam Speaker, we have not forgotten our special needs students. At the ministry, we have an entire unit focused on special education that is doing the same things for those schools as we do for the others. When the pandemic hit, we prioritized our special needs students and continued to develop a curriculum for them. We expanded the number of shadows, did modification of material, created material for adaptation, and with PEP approaching, we're providing our special education students with support in the administration of PEP. They would have taken the first part of it. Our recovery plan, Madam Speaker, is for all our students. Students, particularly the disadvantaged, will need tailored and sustained support to help them readjust and catch up on lost learning. Madam Speaker, catering for the special needs of children and youth within the sector is at the heart of the ministry. During the year, 18 institutions were funded to the tune of $52 million to provide educational, rehabilitation, and therapeutic services for children with diverse disabling conditions. We also continue to provide caregivers to the system. We've initiated the development and implementation of a national school-to-work transition program for students with disabilities, as well as the national standards for special education and programs. Madam Speaker, turning now to infrastructure development. We have to move on a number of different fronts swiftly for our infrastructure development. Number one, we have to create more brain builder centers for our 0 to 3 years old and pick up the pace of creating more infant schools and infant departments. We have to take our schools off shift. Madam Speaker, in 2021, we're still talking about shift schools. 37 schools, of which 16 are primary and 21 are high school, still remain on shift. This impacts a total of almost 50,000 students. We have to build the 6 STEM or STEAM schools and 1 performing arts center. We have to expand other schools that are in need because they have more students than the number of classrooms they were originally built to accommodate. We have to maximize our annual maintenance budget, which is $400 million this fiscal year, to fix the leaking roofs, the broken windows and doors, the faulty electrical, to repair the sanitary facilities, provide termite treatment, and so on. Madam Speaker, where we are in terms of the STEM project and the Performing Arts project is that we will shortly announce our competition, or design competition. That will be, the information about that should be going out within the next several weeks, and we hope to see the creativity of our Jamaicans in kind of envisioning what STEM schools should look like in Jamaica. This financial year, Madam Speaker, the ministry will continue to repair and maintain schools. We will complete work on 4 major infrastructure projects being carried over from last financial year. Black River High School, construction of 2 classroom blocks with a total of 12 classrooms and a wastewater project. Excellent. Kingston College, completion of computer labs, library resource center, and wastewater project. Papine High School, a school with 18 classrooms for 1,300 students. Wow. Urgently needs to get off shift, needs at least another 18 classrooms and a wastewater project. In addition, we will begin construction on 9 major infrastructure projects: Cedric Titus High, Bridgeport High, Homewood Technical, Exchange All Age, Westwood High, Albertown High, Newell High, Mount St. Joseph High, and Dias Infant School, and fencing and electrical upgrades of several schools across the island. Procurement for construction services will also be undertaken within the financial year for 9 major infrastructure projects: Papine High, Port Antonio High, Denhamtown High, Nain High, New Forest High, Belair High, Aberdeen High, Stony Hill Technical High, and Brownbrook Primary. The infrastructure development projects are designed to enhance the teaching and learning environment for our students and teachers across all levels of the education system. The projects are geared towards the elimination of the shift system, the reduction of overcrowding in schools, and the provision of quality school spaces. In addition to all of this, that too, that's there. In addition to what I have announced, Madam Speaker, we have a 5-year plan for 50 schools starting in the next financial year. 50 schools across all our parishes, Madam Speaker. In every constituency. Yes, in every, across, because they all need, but we have to prioritize. We have to prioritize those 50 in the next financial year. Madam Speaker, turning now to technology in schools, the utilization of technology in education is paramount as we look towards the 21st century. We have great plans that we've started executing on already. Our goal is to have adequate connectivity in all our schools, and we have begun to do that. 30 of our schools are already on the high bandwidth infrastructure of the government. Pretty soon, another 381 schools will be connected to the government internet service through third-party contractor. Yes. 362 schools will get Wi-Fi local area network installed and upgraded. Madam Speaker, on May 7th of last year, our pilot Coding in Schools program was launched in collaboration with the Amber Innovations Group at Stony Hill Heart NSTA Academy, targeting 2,000 students in grade 4 and 9. After an assessment by the ministry and talking to stakeholders, we are now at the point where we can expand it to more schools across the island. November of last year marked the beginning of the full rollout of coding in schools, including the training of our teachers. And this is, from all indications, it's going very well. In our children and youth portfolios, of course, our children remain our #1 priority. We know the agency launched and activated its 211 child helpline for reporting child abuse. Right? The helpline aim is to make reporting, especially from children, easier. To date, Madam Speaker, we are seeing, since the 211 helpline was launched, a total of 94,964 calls have come in. There is clearly acceptance of this helpline. However, we still have a lot more to do in terms of resourcing it, given the large number, the volume of calls that have come in. Right. Madam Speaker, we continue to work on our legislative agenda. We have done much work, and pretty soon you will see me come to Parliament with different pieces of legislation to deal with ensuring that abandoned children spend less time in state care, and so on. Madam Speaker, We are working as well on developing and implementing an early warning system so that we are able to spot when things are happening to our children rather than just wait for that call to come in. And the work there, yes, the work there is going apace, led by the Child Protection and Family Services Agency as well. Madam Speaker, I have to speak about the groundbreaking of our therapeutic center. That ground was broken last year. For the therapeutic center on the grounds of the Maxfield Park Children's Home, which signaled the beginning of the construction phase of the project, is going quite well. The center will seek to consolidate the provision of psychological and therapeutic intervention to provide consistent psychosocial services for children displaying mild to severe behavioral and emotional challenges. Despite the challenges faced by Maxfield Children's Home, our goal is to do the planning and execution of the work that will transform the Children's Home to be a model of child care center for excellence. And I again want to thank Minister Morgan for the work that he put in while he was at the Ministry of Education and Youth. Madam Speaker, under the youth portfolio, a number of programs and initiatives were started last year, and new ones are being undertaken for this financial year. A lot of sensitization was done. With respect to Youth Month, we would have seen 40 National Youth Month activities that were hosted to engage our youth. Some, just to name a few, youth in investment, youth with disabilities, Pond the Corner series, and so on. The Prime Minister's Special Award was introduced for 2021, and one young person was conferred with the award. In a bid to provide access service, among others, to the youth population, approximately 10,000 youths were facilitated in youth innovation centers and access points. For this financial year, the youth portfolio will continue the work in providing programs and activities geared towards the empowerment of our young people. Madam Speaker, just a word on the National Council on Education. During the period 2021 to 22, there has been a remarkable improvement in the training of school board members. Over 3,000 board members were trained in 8 two-day virtual sessions in the 7 educational regions. The boards are also supported with ongoing sensitization sessions based on request. With regards to the appointment process, significant progress has been made in appointing school boards on time, that is, before the end of the tenure of the outgoing board. This is necessary to prevent a hiatus in the governance process. Record levels of achievements were accomplished in Regions 4, which is Hanover, St. James and Westmoreland, and Region 5, Manchester and St. Elizabeth in March, with over 70% of school boards being appointed before the end of the tenure of the outgoing board. As you know, Madam Speaker, school boards play a vital role in the governance of public educational institutions in our country. They have extensive responsibilities and are required to operate within a complex legal and regulatory framework. Madam Speaker, as I wind down here, looking at the quality of education and the alignment with future job markets, this we do know, the future job market landscape will continue to evolve, bringing us jobs in the next 2 decades than we can barely imagine now. Forefront in our minds in the education sector is the question, what set of skills we emphasize now so that our children will be prepared for that future job market. Report after report point to higher cognitive skills, which include advanced literacy and writing, critical thinking, quantitative analysis and statistical skills, social and emotional skills as well, to allow our students to have advanced communication, empathy, adaptability, and the ability to learn continuously. Experts say one of the biggest things that students today need to succeed at work is the ability to work as a team. They need to understand how to communicate, compromise, and share credit so that they can be a valuable contributing member to projects. These are some of the things that we hope that our STEAM curriculum will deliver for us, but beyond that, We have to teach life skills and workplace habits that employers prioritize, including reliability, punctuality, written and presentation skills, customer service, and high-quality task completion. Madam Speaker, we have to teach our Jamaican students about Jamaicans who have excelled, so our students have an appreciation of a wider range of excellence and persons as role models in a wide variety of fields. And today, in celebrating outstanding Jamaicans on the global stage, and I will continue to do this so that our children, our students can know what Jamaicans like themselves are doing. Jamaican Claire Nelson, futurist, sustainability engineer, social engineer, and storyteller, is the founder and president of the Institute of Caribbean Studies. Ms. Nelson has been included in the Forbes magazine list of the 59 most influential female futurists in 2020. She is Claire Nelson, PhD, attended St. Hugh's School for Girls in Jamaica. Among her advanced degrees are the industrial engineering degrees from the State University of New York at Buffalo, Purdue University, and a doctorate in engineering management from George Washington University. We also want to highlight for our students, pilot Dion Byrne. Articles on her says she pilots one of the world's most impressive aircraft, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which seats up to 290 passengers and estimated to cost about US $250 million. In a profession dominated by men, this is an achievement in the aviation industry. Pilot Dion Byrne, a Jamaican, has flown for United for many years. She's a Westwood High past student. And then Mr. Walt Brathwaite, born in Jamaica. He received an engineering degree, joined Boeing. He's credited with being an early pioneer of a small feat of engineering that's arguably the most important invention of the 20th century. It is known as CAD, computer-aided design. Historians say we have Mr. Walt Brathwaite to thank for it. Mr. Brathwaite's team oversaw the engineering development of the Boeing 707, 727, and 737, and later as head of engineering operations for the 747, the 767, and the 777, the first commercial aircraft to be designed entirely with computer-aided design. Of course, we celebrate Jamaicans at home as well, and again, as we move into celebrating Jamaica's 60th, you will hear more of this being highlighted from the Ministry of Education and Youth. We want to impress on our students that Jamaicans are excelling at home and abroad in a wide cross-section of industries so that they have that model in their head as well. Madam Speaker, the tertiary institutions have generally resumed normal operations, with most utilizing hybrid models for the delivery of some courses and engaging students face-to-face. Most are focused on full resumption of face-to-face for this year. Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission, JTEC, maintains two databases which provide timely information, especially to students preparing for entry to tertiary education. There's a program tuition fee database, and there's a scholarship database, which provides details on scholarships as well as other financing options available to Jamaican students to study in Jamaica. And we know that financing is a big hurdle for many in the tertiary sector. We've also provided an initiative to attract teachers. So, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education and Youth provides tuition funding for tertiary students pursuing courses of study in education, especially in STEM-related fields, under the Tertiary Students Assistance Program. The first cohort of 247 fully qualified teachers did graduate in 2019, but we have another 350 that graduated in 2020, and there are more scheduled to graduate in 2022. In addition to the scholarships offered for teacher education, the ministry introduced a suite of engineering scholarships available for students pursuing programs at the University of the West Indies, University of Technology, Caribbean Maritime University. So we want our tertiary students to know of this. The Ministry Scholarship Program has an annual budget of $365 million. Applications are opened, and if you visit our website, you will see. So, Madam Speaker, as I close, I could not close without speaking about our sixth form Pathways program. In the first instance, it is learning loss mitigation strategy for those who already left grade 11 in June of last year. With significant reduced educational levels, having lost almost 2 years as a result of the pandemic. They have a chance now to recover those 2 years in the sixth form Pathways program 2 and 3. However, Madam Speaker, the sixth form Pathways programs 2 and 3 are more than a pandemic loss mitigation effort, much more. These two programs are for those students who get to grade 11 and want a chance at tertiary education or a good job, despite not being able to access the traditional sixth form program, primarily offered by our traditional high schools due to the very high cost and the requirement to have 5 CSEC subjects, including maths and English. In order to give those students a fighting chance, we've created these two new pathways, 2 and 3, with a focus on providing students with an opportunity to meet the minimum certification standard and support them in working towards it. We're pleased, Madam Speaker, that since the launch of this program, we've seen an uptake by our students. Across all the sixth form programs, the traditional Pathways 2 and 3, a total of 19,000 students registered this academic year. This is an increase. This is an increase of 8,194 students so far, Madam Speaker. We are pleased that our children are responding to this. And we'd like to just acknowledge our students who are sitting in the gallery. Many of them up there are our sixth form Pathways 2 and 3 programs.
We are closing now, Madam.
As I speak,
Right.
I'm ending. Okay. Madam Speaker, there's no shortcut to improved learning outcomes. In a world economy where knowledge and skills have become the global currency, the key to better jobs and better lives, we can only develop it through sustained effort and investing in our students. So changing the future of education means embracing the recommendations of the Jamaica Education Transformation Report 2021 Commission Report. Changing the future of education means the ministry getting into homes to understand the issues with which our children are faced and bringing to bear the full resources of the government. Changing the future of education means making the Ministry of Education and Youth more forward-facing, proactive, and sympathetic to the needs of our teachers, those needs that can be fulfilled by the ministry, such as better service. Madam Speaker, there are no grand revelations, no magic wand. There is no shortcut to improve learning outcomes. And Madam Speaker, when I say that there are no shortcuts, there is no place where this was more evident and true than at the stadium this past week. Madam Speaker, the display of students' talent, hard work, discipline, determination, drive to success, loyalty to school, and future promises at the ISA Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Championship elicit immense joy, especially since we got the opportunity to experience it not only in the televised world but also in person. I am deeply proud of all of our students, the coaches, the principals who made accommodations in their budgets, the past students and parents who went above and beyond in the joint effort to hone the skills and to showcase the best in our students. Not even the pandemic could deny the preparations for the championships and the added bonus of the new records that were created by some of our athletes. This is what happens when we work in partnerships. Our students become their best selves. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, we really want to thank the Minister for an outstanding presentation with details and good news for the future of education in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, we continue to make the point and urge that we stay within the time the